Take a deep breath, Eagles fans, because this game is not just another one. This is about survival, about adaptability, about whether the Philadelphia Eagles can finally stop carrying the weight of the game on just one side of the ball. There's no room for mistakes here. Every snap is a statement of who this team truly is. On one side, two franchises that have defined consistency throughout the decade. On the other, completely different paths to this wild-card matchup. The Eagles are here because their defense has refused to break, even when the offense stalled, sputtered, and at times sabotaged its own opportunities. And that says everything about this roster's identity, pure resilience. That spirit is what keeps Philadelphia alive when everything seems to be working against them. Meanwhile, the opponent survived on system, discipline, and structure. But this is the playoffs. This is where it's not about who looked better during the season. It's about who absorbs the hit, who adapts in chaos, who understands the weight of the green and white when the season is on the line. And don't forget to hit that like button to support the channel and push this content to more fans who bleed green and white. From the Eagles' perspective, this matchup feels like a mirror held up to their entire season. Vic Fangio's defense has carried this team week after week, remaining a top-tier unit while the offense, despite having one of the highest payrolls in the league, has struggled on first down, second down, and especially on third down. The numbers tell a frustrating story: long third down situations, slow tempo getting to the line, and an inability to sustain drives. There have been games where the defense has done everything possible to win, only to watch the offense manage one first down over entire quarters. That reality hangs over this wild card game like a cloud, because now there is no margin for error and no next week to figure it out. What makes this matchup so fascinating is that the 49ers arrive with their own version of adversity. San Francisco has dealt with a staggering list of injuries, including prolonged absences to cornerstone players on both sides of the ball. Despite that, they still found ways to win, to adapt, and to remain competitive at the highest level. Shanahan's ability to keep the offense functional regardless of who is under center has been one of the defining coaching stories of the season. The Eagles' defensive staff has been blunt about how they view that offense, preparing for concepts rather than obsessing over individual quarterbacks, because the structure of the scheme remains the same. That puts even more pressure on execution, discipline, and winning matchups in space. For Philadelphia, the central question is simple but uncomfortable. Can the offense do enough so that the defense doesn't have to be perfect again? Fangio's unit has consistently put the Eagles in position to win games, and it will once again be asked to slow down an offense built around Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and a timing-based passing game that thrives when it stays ahead of the chains. Linebacker play becomes critical here, because Shanahan's offense is designed to put those players in conflict, forcing split-second decisions that can turn into explosive plays if they're wrong. The Eagles know this, and they also know that if they allow San Francisco to live in manageable down-and-distance situations, the game tilts heavily in the 49ers' favor. On the other side of the ball, the Eagles see opportunity, but only if they're willing to change what hasn't worked. San Francisco's defense has been battered by injuries, particularly at linebacker, and that vulnerability shows up both against the run and in coverage. Dallas Goedert's role becomes especially important here, as he has quietly put together one of the most productive seasons of his career and has become a focal point in the red zone. With the traditional short yardage packages losing effectiveness, Goedert has emerged as a reliable answer near the goal line. If the Eagles can create favorable matchups for him against the depleted second level, it could change the flow of the game. Still, none of that matters if the run game remains stagnant. Saquon Barkley is the kind of player who can flip a playoff game with one run, but he has rarely been given the space to reach the second level this season. Offensive line health, personnel groupings, and early down play calling all come into focus here. The Eagles have struggled in heavier formations, especially when asking backup tight ends to block, and the results have been painfully inefficient. Spreading the field, simplifying reads, and creating easier yards early in drives isn't just a preference anymore, it's a necessity. This is why this wildcard matchup feels less like a clash of stars and more like a referendum on identity. The Eagles know who they are defensively. The question is whether the offense can finally become a unit you can win with, instead of one you're constantly trying to survive. Against a 49ers team that plays physical football, adapts on the fly, and leans into its strengths without apology, Philadelphia won't get away with another performance where the defense has to carry everything on its back. So as this game approaches, it feels like a moment of truth more than just another playoff matchup. Is this the night the Eagles' offense finally meets the standard set by its defense, or does this game confirm that the real answers won't come until the offseason? What do you think this matchup ultimately says about where the Eagles truly are right now? The deeper you go into this matchup, the clearer it becomes that both teams are trying to win the same type of game, just from opposite directions. San Francisco wants to control rhythm, stay balanced, and let its offense compensate for a defense that simply hasn't been whole for most of the year. Philadelphia wants to dictate terms defensively and is hoping, maybe more than at any other point this season, that the offense can finally rise to the level of the moment. That tension is what makes this wild card game so compelling, because whichever unit cracks first could decide everything. From the Eagles' defensive standpoint, the blueprint is obvious but extremely difficult to execute. They must get Brock Purdy behind the sticks. Shanahan's offense is at its best when first and second down are productive, when play action is a real threat, and when linebackers are forced to hesitate. If the Eagles can win early downs, suddenly everything changes. That's when Fangio can dial up pressure. That's when Nolan Smith, Josh Sweat, Jalen Carter, and Jordan Davis can collapse the pocket, and that's when Purdy's height and sight lines become part of the equation. Getting hands up at the line, muddying throwing lanes, and forcing tight window throws is exactly how this defense wants to play. But the challenge, as always, is Christian McCaffrey. When he's allowed to get downhill, everything else opens up. The 49ers have been at their most dangerous this season when McCaffrey is touching the ball consistently, not just as a runner but as an outlet in the passing game. Quick checkdowns that turn into 7 or 8 yards keep the offense on schedule and slowly wear down a defense. That's why the Eagles' edge defenders and linebackers have such a critical role. Preventing McCaffrey from reaching the second and third levels isn't just about tackling, it's about discipline, angles, and understanding exactly where the help is supposed to be. Offensively, the Eagles face a moment of truth that's been building all year. The numbers on third down, the struggles on early downs, and the inconsistency in the quick passing game have all led to one unavoidable conclusion. This offense hasn't functioned like a playoff-caliber unit often enough. Now, against the 49ers defense that has been decimated by injuries, especially at linebacker, the excuses are gone. This is a matchup that should be exploitable if the Eagles are willing to lean into what works. Dallas Goedert sits right at the center of that conversation. He has become a matchup problem that defenses struggle to solve, particularly when the middle of the field is compromised. San Francisco has been forced to rotate linebackers all season, with injuries constantly reshaping their depth chart. Asking those players to handle Goedert in space, especially in high-leverage situations, is a tall order. That's why his involvement early and often could be a signal of how serious the Eagles are about adjusting their approach. The run game ties everything together. Saquon Barkley remains one of the most dangerous players in the league when he gets into space, but that hasn't happened nearly enough this season. Too many runs have died at the line of scrimmage, too many carries have been wasted in unfavorable formations, and too often the Eagles have put themselves behind schedule. Spreading the field, using more 11 personnel, and creating clearer lanes isn't just a schematic preference, it's a survival tactic. When Barkley is forced to grind for every yard with no momentum, the offense stalls. When he gets even a sliver of daylight, the entire defense has to react differently. What makes this game so intriguing is how similar the pressure points are for both teams. The 49ers need their offense to carry them because the defense can't be relied on to dominate. The Eagles need their offense to simply be competent enough so that the defense doesn't have to be heroic. Both quarterbacks play better when the run game is established. Both coaching staffs understand that early down success will likely decide the outcome. And both fan bases know that this game could say a lot about the immediate future of their teams. For Philadelphia, this isn't just about advancing to the next round. It's about answering questions that have lingered for months. Can this offense execute under playoff pressure? Can it complement a championship-level defense instead of weighing it down? Or will this game confirm that the real fixes are still ahead, waiting for the offseason? That's why this wildcard matchup feels like more than just Eagles versus 49ers. It feels like a verdict on the 2025 Eagles as a whole. If you've watched this season closely, you already know what's at stake beyond the scoreboard. Now it's your turn. If this game stretches deep into the fourth quarter, that's where the emotional weight of the entire season will show itself. You'll be able to feel whether the Eagles believe in their offensive identity or whether they're still searching for answers snap by snap. Playoff football has a way of stripping everything down to instincts, preparation, and trust. There's no hiding behind game plans anymore, and there's no room to wait until the next drive to fix what's broken. Every possession carries consequence, and for Philadelphia, that pressure sits squarely on the offense. One of the quiet undercurrents in this matchup is tempo. The Eagles have been one of the slowest teams getting to the line of scrimmage this season, and that has had a real impact on rhythm. Drives stall not just because of execution, but because the offense never finds a flow. Against a 49ers team that wants to control pace and dictate terms, that hesitation can be deadly. If the Eagles fall into early holes on first and second down again, the game script quickly tilts away from what they want to do. Long third downs don't just favor San Francisco's defense, they also put even more strain on an offense that hasn't consistently won in obvious passing situations. That's where the importance of early confidence comes in. A clean first drive, a couple of successful early runs, a tight end seam route that hits in stride, those moments matter more than the stat sheet shows. They change body language, they change play calling, and most importantly, they change belief. The Eagles have veterans across the offense who have played in massive playoff games before. This is the moment where that experience has to translate into execution, not just leadership in the huddle. Defensively, the Eagles know what they are. They've embraced being the backbone of this team, and they'll enter this game fully prepared to do it again if necessary. But even the best defenses wear down when they're constantly asked to defend short fields or return to the field after quick 3-and-outs. Complementary football has been the missing piece for long stretches of this season, and the margin for that mistake is gone now. Against an opponent that thrives on physicality and persistence, every extra snap matters. As this game unfolds, you'll likely see both teams adjust, counter, and probe for weaknesses. Shanahan will keep testing the linebackers, keep using motion with purpose, and keep forcing defenders to choose. Fangio will stay patient, disguise coverages, and trust his front to create pressure without compromising structure. Somewhere in the middle of that chess match, the outcome will be decided not by a trick play or a fluke bounce, but by which offense can stay on schedule just long enough. For the Eagles, this is the defining question of the night. Can the offense finally play clean, efficient football for 4 quarters and reward a defense that has carried the weight all season? Or does this game confirm that the imbalance we've seen for months is simply too much to overcome against a well-coached, resilient opponent? What ultimately makes this game linger in your mind is how familiar the tension feels if you've followed this team closely all season. There's a sense that the Eagles are standing at the edge of clarity. Not comfort, not certainty, but clarity. Either the offense proves it can function with purpose and efficiency when everything is on the line, or the season ends with the same unanswered questions that have hovered since the middle of the year. Playoff games have a brutal honesty to them, and this one is no different. If the Eagles win, it won't be because they suddenly became explosive or flawless. It will be because they were disciplined, because they avoided self-inflicted wounds, and because they finally understood the value of staying on schedule. Shorter third downs, quicker decisions, fewer wasted plays. That's the formula. It's not flashy, but against the wounded yet dangerous 49ers defense, it's more than enough if executed properly. And if that happens, the narrative around this offense shifts immediately from liability to survivor, from problem to possibility. If they lose, the post-game conversation writes itself. The defense will have done its job again. Fangio's unit will have battled, adjusted, and competed for 4 quarters, and the spotlight will once again swing hard toward the offense, toward the structure, the play calling, and the inability to consistently create easy yards. That's why this game feels heavier than most wildcard matchups. It's not just about advancing, it's about validation, or the lack of it. From a fan's perspective, this is the type of game that tests faith. Faith in the roster, faith in the coaching staff, faith that the lessons of the regular season weren't ignored, but absorbed. Every Eagles fan watching knows exactly which moments they're bracing for. The 3rd and long after a negative first down play. The stalled drive that puts the defense right back on the field. The missed opportunity that keeps the game tighter than it needs to be. At the same time, there's hope, because all it takes is one sustained drive, one stretch of clean football, to change everything. That's the beauty and the cruelty of playoff football. Seasons are judged in hours, not months. And for this Eagles team, the judgment will be swift and unavoidable. This game against the 49ers is the line between extending belief and confirming doubt. There is no soft landing either way. Now it's on the players to answer the question they've been carrying all year. Can this team win with balance when it matters most, or has the imbalance finally caught up to them? From a fan's perspective, this is the type of game that tests faith. Faith in the roster, faith in the coaching staff, faith that the lessons of the regular season weren't ignored, but absorbed. Every Eagles fan watching knows exactly which moments they're bracing for. The 3rd and long after a negative first down play. The stalled drive that puts the defense right back on the field. The missed opportunity that keeps the game tighter than it needs to be. At the same time, there's hope, because all it takes is one sustained drive, one stretch of clean football, to change everything. That's the beauty and the cruelty of playoff football. Seasons are judged in hours, not months. And for this Eagles team, the judgment will be swift and unavoidable. This game against the 49ers is the line between extending belief and confirming doubt. There is no soft landing either way. Now it's on the players to answer the question they've been carrying all year. Can this team win with balance when it matters most, or has the imbalance finally caught up to them? What ultimately makes this game linger in your mind is how familiar the tension feels if you've followed this team closely all season. There's a sense that the Eagles are standing at the edge of clarity. Not comfort, not certainty, but clarity. Either the offense proves it can function with purpose and efficiency when everything is on the line, or the season ends with the same unanswered questions that have hovered since the middle of the year. Playoff games have a brutal honesty to them, and this one is no different. If the Eagles win, it won't be because they suddenly became explosive or flawless. It will be because they were disciplined, because they avoided self-inflicted wounds, and because they finally understood the value